Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Kim with K Montes Art Studio and I cannot keep a serious face. You're probably wondering why I'm sitting here in this weird position with all these things behind me. I'm setting up for a still life and a self-portrait. So I am a landscape painter primarily. I used to do figures, and a lot of my figures were very, very interesting. So most of my figures had no faces and they only showed their bodies. And I'm taking on the challenge of doing a self-portrait. So this should be interesting. I love painting still objects. Still lives are a lot of fun to me. And I don't know what I'm doing. So the reason why I'm doing this is because Studio Slew is hosting a competition. So Studio Slew is a nonprofit with the artist Slew from YouTube. And I thought I'd take on the challenge to see how I portray myself. So I'm in full-on acting mode right now. And although this is how I would actually dress, I am trying to portray a story and trying to tell a story of what I've experienced. So let's dive into that story and let's see how this turns out. I'm afraid of self-portraits because I want to be able to portray the face in the most correct way. I'm not afraid of doing ugly art. But there's something about making an ugly face that really scares me. I love when others go bonkers and kind of create their own stylized face. I mean, come on, I'm in love with fauvism. Have you seen a fauvis style painting? I dream of acquiring that style. And something about portraits doesn't let me get loose. I don't know. I feel tight. I am a very loose landscape painter. I love to create wacky, sort of imaginary landscapes. But there's something about a face that doesn't allow you to get wacky. Well, at least for me. Yet. I think that I will eventually continue to practice because there was something about this portrait that really helped me to kind of find that looseness, and all the studies that I did and observed helped also. So during this process, I attempted to take video of myself to find the perfect image, but then I got assistance from my wife to help with that. So my wife just came back from a bike ride. I'm going to surprise her with my crazy outfit. I was trying to portray a sad look. Can I put teardrops in my eyes?
After we watched the sunset.
So it was at this very moment that I realized this was a bad idea.
His donkey friends could see.
Now that I was forced to cry for real, thanks to my wife. She wanted the authenticity to be there. Watching sad puppy videos with my manager in the room. Like, how crazy. Well, the photo shoot is a wrap. And I'm going to go through all the photos tomorrow to see which picture, if I decide to go with the happier ones or the sad ones. But I feel like the sad ones because I just went through a lot of pain watching all these sad puppy videos. And I think that my manager will love it. All right, So we're in day 2 of the self-portrait painting. I selected the photo. It's a great photo. It kind of portrays that sadness that I was going for, not like full-on tear sadness that I was imagining, but it does have a little bit of a sad sort of emotion behind the eyes, and I think that was captured really well with that photo. So I'm gonna focus on that, and I think the composition of the photo is really well. Is really well sort of portrayed, and I am probably gonna start by sketching. I'm probably gonna do a little bit of acrylic and get some underpainting. So I've set up here so I can reference my still life, and I also will be sitting down, back and forth between sitting and standing. I just have to be careful with my easel and the fan. All right, guys, this is the photo I decided to go with. Doesn't it have so much like emotion? I think it's a good one. So a lot of the things that kind of went into play with me not liking self-portraits primarily had to do with self-love. I think when I was in art school, I was forced to do a couple self-portraits. I also did a self-portrait way back in high school, and I had zero problems with that one. And I did that one really well. I don't know when things kind of flipped in my mind, but I'm glad I took on this challenge because the more I looked at myself, the more I was able to kind of break things down as a shape, as a sort of an object, and of course I'm still nearly not as good as I would like to be, but I was able to kind of break it away and see myself as an object as I do with my landscapes. So I think I have the starting composition sketch down. I'm zoomed a little bit more in than the actual photo. So I kind of want to just to focus on the monstera, the rubber plant leaf, and the little figure, and just a smaller corner of the bookshelf. So you can see that here that I kind of zoom into that portion of the still life a little bit more. This face is going to be really hard, so I might have to practice on that. So I'm trying to also see if things are proportionate. So let me step back. Like the body is easy for me, clearly. I think the face, if I take a look at things, so if I'm gathering, right, the face should be from the top to where my thumb is, 2, 3, 3.5. Which, if I'm actually looking at my little figure dude and I measured his head, 1, 2, 2.5. So I think I got it right. So the preliminary sketch is as good as it's gonna get. I think I'm gonna have to, I don't know, this is really hard. But first, let me adjust to see if I can capture it, because I think the cheek is the issue. It's also really muddy, and the lips, I don't have the lips down. I have my side cheek, that's pretty accurate. The ear is fine. It's a little bit larger. I do have a bit of a larger ear, but it's not that big. I'm just gonna matte medium it and deal with the painting later. So what I like to do when I'm doing something for like a commission that deals with, which I don't ever take, that deals with a portrait. I've only ever taken my mom's commissions when it comes to portraits. She asked me to do a Santa Claus once and Mrs. Claus, which I think I still have on my channel. Oh, this just smudging. This is not off to a good start. This self-portrait helped me realize a lot about myself. I mentioned earlier that it took me some time to get used to looking at myself. And I think breaking my face down into objects, something about self-portraits that kind of make me afraid is telling the story through the eyes. And for me, if I don't capture the face in some sort of actualness, it does not feel authentic. And I think that's the story that I've been trying to tell with this self-portrait is I want it to be my authentic self. And I know that I'm not good at faces primarily because I haven't practiced. I think if I spend more time studying the face and the eyes, nose, and mouth structure, I would, of course, improve. But this helped me to understand that stylization is an option. And this is where I started to think about Frida Kahlo and understanding her stylized ways of portraying her self-portraits. And I think I took that into play with this particular self-portrait. I wanted to capture the emotion that I was able to capture in the photography of myself and make it unique in a way that I paint. And I think I was able to acquire that through the different colors, the different vibrancies, and just those things alone help me to really stay true to my style and stay true to my essence of how I paint, how I am as an artist. And although I don't typically paint self-portraits, I was able to really find my style in just these few days of painting myself, studying other self-portraits. What I didn't film on camera was me going through several books of portrait painters. I looked at Frida Kahlo's journal book. I looked at several other artists like Van Gogh. I have a bunch of artist books on my shelf behind there. And I spent some time observing a lot of the Fauvis style paintings, understanding how they kind of just painterly add different facial features to acquire a set look. And I think I was able to kind of get that muscle memory going in my head when I started researching on my own and come up with my own style. Now you'll see that I did not accomplish the look I was going for the first time around, and I was able to modify and adjust, and things turned out well. But the biggest lesson overall is that I was able to face my fears. I think when we get comfortable in our art styles, we oftentimes avoid other things that, quote unquote, aren't the things we do. And I really accomplished that with this painting. So I finished day one of this self-portrait. And in order for me to genuinely get through the portrait, I had to cover the face, you can kind of see the underlay of the sketch still. It's kind of creepy, but I couldn't get through it with the eye staring at me. I think I mentioned before how I have a weird thing with like portraits and eyes, and not that I'm scared of them in any way. It's just that I think I don't know, something about it. It's just not. It just doesn't appeal to me, and I hate painting this. This is really painful. At one point, I cried because I'm like, why am I torturing myself going through this? Um, it's still very preliminary. So I've acquired over 10 hours of footage making this painting, and with some of the extra paint that I went along the way with, I ended up creating extra pages as backgrounds, and you'll see it again. So my process for this painting was using acrylic gouache. Then I went back over it with soft body Liquitex. And then I go in with some Poscas, which you'll see soon. But I fell in love with this soft body Liquitex. It was absolutely amazing. It's sort of like a semi matte, semi gloss look, depending on what you're using it on. So on canvas, it appeared to be a little bit semi gloss, whereas certain papers, it does appear to be a little bit semi matte. And I really love that look. I don't like when acrylic paint is very high gloss and sticky and kind of, I don't know, it doesn't mix well when I'm trying to do mixed media. So here you can see that I'm using that extra paint because I was calling it a day this moment, and I wanted to kind of clean up my palette. So I guess these would be like palette cleanup pages. There's a lot of P's in that, but you can see how these look, and I did that with my book and some sketchbooks, and here's my progress so far. My manager approves, of course. So I then come back to it later on, and I'm clearly engulfed in a YouTube video of some sort, and I start to kind of bounce back and forth. So at this point, I kind of touch the face, but I don't go back in at all just yet. I'm kind of trying to avoid it, if you can notice. And I wanted to get as many details in as possible before I could focus on the face, because I wanted to really concentrate on what I was going for. And while I did all of this, every time I took a break, I would do some research on different books and kind of observe different paintings from other people and see what they would do. This is one technique that I used in a prior painting of mine. It's actually a still life painting, and I really like this technique of going in with gouache, with acrylic gouache, and then going back over with the Posca pens to kind of add some highlights and some techniques. And here is where I realized that I wanted to take this into Procreate and really understand the facial features, because I started to notice that my proportions were so off. It was kind of comical after I was able to retrieve some of those proportions back. So what I did was underlay the photo of the painting on top of the actual photo, and then I printed it out with my terrible printer that doesn't have any ink. Everything came out pink. And I was able to kind of grid things out and find the grid of certain areas to capture that particular feature. So I was really trying my best to get the eyes in a way that were more stylized and realistic. Hey guys, it is 11:30 at night and I just wanted to give you an update on this self-portrait. I finally found the issue. The issue was that I was drawing my head entirely too big. I already have a big head naturally, but if you see, actually, before my iPad dies. So if you see here, I brought the painting to overlap the image, and my body is proportionate, right? I even drew some of my arm. My arm is a little bit smaller, so let me increase the opacity here. You can see, so that's the original photo. I changed some of the positioning a bit, and you can see how my arm is tinier than my real arm. It was so close, but it's not terrible proportion to the figure. So if we turn this off, you can see how close I was with the proportion. I purposely changed the positioning so that it's a little bit more sophisticated and in the pattern. I'm not exactly sure how to explain it, but anyway, so I changed that. Then when I overlaid my image, I saw that the hair and the head was so enormous. I knew that I had an issue with the face, but I thought the whole time that it was the chin. And surprisingly enough, the chin is just ever so slightly off. So if you see here, that little portion is ever so slightly off. And then just like this little portion, but that doesn't really matter. My facial proportions were actually on target. This is where the issue lied. I know I have a big forehead, but guys, I gave myself like a 17 head. And then my hair in the original picture starts here, and my hair in the painting starts all the way over here. So I made my head 3 times as large as it needed to be. Look, I know I like subconsciously was drawing a large head because I have a large head, but the proportion is just not matching the body. So this proportion matches so much better, and if I were to keep going down, things makes more sense. So what I ended up doing was kind of creating a grid system, printing that out, and referencing it for the sketch. So the sketch is terrible, but I have the proportions right, and I'm happy about it. You're probably like, what the hell is she happy about? But I have the nose correct. The mouth is good. Just a little bit of editing. The eyes are in roundabout a good positioning. I do want to edit the spacing. It should be a little bit further. You can see I was trying to with my Poscas, but I'll adjust this tomorrow with paint. I'm so happy about this though. Like, as ugly as it looks right now, I'm like freaking out because I thought I wasn't going to be able to figure out the face. I even tried looking into like other styles and kind of switching things up, but I love it. And I also, just to quickly mention, I covered the part. So all of this was hair, and I covered it with a green to kind of give myself a reference. And you can see I could afford to cover some of this green. I do like to create my hair in a bigger way, so this doesn't bother me so much. But this all was hair, and you can see how unproportionate that was to the body. But now that I've covered it with that little green and kind of covered it with the pinkish tone to hide that bit a little bit, I can see the proportion is proper. I finally got the paint in on my face and it felt so good. I think I spent some time off camera kind of capturing most of the tones and just getting in a lot of the primary features. And to see the face come alive was so satisfying. I probably teared up a couple times. There's so many times I teared up. Of course, I didn't include those clips in here because the first crying clip was enough. It's funny because I'm a Cancer and I cry all the time. I'm very sensitive. But painting the lips and the nose were my favorite parts. It brought me back to when I first started as an artist in high school and how sometimes you just practice nose and lips when you don't realize what you like. So you're just assuming that art is only realism all the time. And those two features were my most commonly practiced. And of course, it kind of brought me back to that. I would say that the eyes were a challenge because they're a 3/4 turn and kind of making them stylized. I intentionally made the eyes stylized to appear more illustrated. Then I was clearly having a challenge. I had to cover up one side of the eye to see what was going on. Oh, yes, and I also forgot to mention that I pulled in a mirror. The mirror and looking at myself and referencing myself and looking at the painting backwards in the mirror itself was so helpful. Every now and then I picked up my Frida Kahlo painting and looked at it and referenced it. But I was truly going for my own style, and subconsciously I got the Frida Kahlo style. And I know that it was in the back of my mind, but I was also hoping to acquire a more Fauve style with the skin tones, which I think I kind of captured some of that, but I could have pushed the color a bit more. I didn't want to kind of break the banks, to sort of speak, by doing that, so I just kept it limited and acquired the Frida Kahlo look. I was so excited that I had that similarity within these two.
Good morning, guys. This is, I think, the 4th day that I've been painting this. I am almost done. You saw last me completing the face. I finally feel accomplished with this face. I have the features accented. They don't exactly look like me, but I think it captures the essence of who I am.
I have to say that I'm really proud of this painting. I really stepped out of my comfort zone. And although I started this painting for competition, genuinely in my heart, it feels that I did this for myself. And if I win the competition, then yay, like double win. If I don't, I still have this experience that I went through with this painting, all the learning that I acquired from this painting. So that's super helpful for me. I love this style. This is exactly what I was hunting for. I stepped out of my comfort zone. I faced my fears of portraiture, and I learned so much about how I want to accomplish facial paintings, portraiture, and my techniques going forward. Here I'm talking to my dog. I'm cracking up watching this footage. He He was totally like listening to exactly what I had to say. You guys really don't believe me, but I do ask him my opinion. I ask him his opinion sometimes. Um, but yeah, back to this painting. I'm so happy as to how it turned out. And I think going forward, I definitely want to try to practice more portraiture. I think what helped me a lot is preparing for it, posing for it, and using a photo that made me feel confident, made me feel beautiful, and I was able to successfully complete this painting.
Okay, manager check-in. What's going on? Manager number 2, aka assistant manager. You call this a painting? This is terrible. Why are you so rude to me? Sit. I just finished the leaves. I need to now touch up the pink area. I left this here as an opening. I need to make that pink. Things are looking good. I poured out way too much paint. My manager's trying to leave. So I'll fill those, fill blank pages with this extra paint. It doesn't go to waste. I didn't realize how little I needed to fix. I think I want to add a little bit more depth with my Posca pens in here, kind of like similar to this. So far so good.
I would really like to thank the academies for the great job. Just kidding. I really like to thank SLU and Studio SLU for coming up with this challenge and allowing artists to kind of create freely. Sometimes when you're faced with a challenge, whether that's a literal challenge or something that you really don't want to do, it's good to go for it. And as soon as he presented this challenge, if he hadn't presented this challenge, I would have still been in the world of landscapes and avoiding portraiture, and kind of just like, oh, whatever. Sometimes you gotta kind of light a fire under your butt to really get into it. And I also loved that I was able to create so many pages of sort of background sheets. I don't know what to call these. But I kind of started working on some of those, but I have like kind of created double artwork while doing this painting. So as I wrap up this painting and get the final touches in, I reflect on a lot of the the process that went into this and a lot of the emotion that was hidden in my despise for painting portraiture. I'm clearly tired at this point. I think it was maybe 9 o'clock in the morning at this point. But I was motivated to get it done, and I did. And the moment I flipped it over, I knew it was done. I signed it, and I called it a day. I was absolutely the most proud. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below if you plan on doing any self-portraits. I really had so much fun filming and editing and just making this painting in general. Welcome to all the new subscribers. Don't forget to check out my Patreon. Thank you for watching to the very end. This one was a long one. Let me know which part of the painting is your favorite. I personally love the bookshelf. And I thank you all so much. I will see you in the next one.